we haven't found savings. So I think one of the things that people underestimate about what we're doing is it's not just about the savings. Really, people are interested in peace of mind as much as saving money. It's knowing that you're on a good deal or you can save money. And we will also let them know if we've gone through and haven't been able to find them savings because they're paying a decent price, which is kind of useful feedback for clients as well.
Yeah. And I suppose linked within that, it isn't directly linked to Reducer, but I suppose the mindset of people that you're seeing. Do you see that clients or end businesses are now prioritizing what I'd say money over time? So it's a case of they're realizing actually my time is quite valuable, and I'm willing sometimes to pay for advice or pay for other services to actually assist with that a little bit more than I might normally.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to. Anyone who's got clients will know that no two clients are exactly the same, and
yeah,
while one might be going in that direction, one might be going in the other. It's definitely something we hear. I think the interesting thing about that is people's price consciousness. What they think about doesn't necessarily translate with reality. So some areas that they might think, oh, I'm going to put loads of time into this to save money. So one common example is petrol prices. People are really aware of petrol prices and will travel a long way to save 1p on petrol. What they won't think about is when they go into the petrol station that they're spending £1.60 on a Mars bar that they could get for £1 elsewhere. It's the same in supermarkets. You have like benchmarks prices on things like bread and milk. I mean, everyone should know the price of milk, apparently. Bananas, that sort of stuff, but you forget the cost of Marmite. And I guess it's kind of the same in a business in that there's some things that you see day to day and you know exactly how much they should cost. And there's some things that you just have no idea and you just imagine or presume you're getting a good deal. And what really surprised me when I moved into this market and started Reducer was that a lot of the consumer protections that business people expect to get don't cover consumers. So in energy, there's a price cap for consumers, for example. In the business world, you can have people next door to each other paying 4 times as much for the same service. Businesses are treated like they have the time, the inclination, and the effort to read every single term and condition of the agreement. So it's a difficult world to be in for businesses.
Yeah, and I think everybody knows that nobody goes through every T's and C's and reads it through completely, do they? Nobody reads through the full fine print.
Yeah, well, again, as a business, it's why you need someone on your side for these sorts of things, because if you enter an electricity contract, for example, the terms of it are can be very different to others. So in terms of, I mean, you can always move premises, but in terms of if you can get out of that and what allows you to do that, really the same with like card payment processing, all these sorts of things. You need to, there's one example, we don't do printers, but when we were researching, we did research in a lot of areas, and one of the largest printer resellers in the UK, they charge per copy, and they sell it as the salespeople sell it as per color copy, but there's a comma in the terms and conditions, which means that their clients are paying per color copy, meaning, and as you'll know, there are 4 colors for each, the black, yellow, cyan thingy. So you end up paying 4 times as much because of that one comma at one point in the contract. So yeah, I really feel that businesses or these large suppliers spend all of their time trying to work out how to maximize the amount of money they make out of these small businesses. And so energy companies, as an example, make double the amount of margin they do from small businesses as they do from consumers. And that's just because there's no protection for small businesses. And really, that's kind of what we're trying to do, is create this system that's so easy to use, so simple and effective that businesses don't have to worry about anything. They can just come to us and we'll give them the advice.
Okay, and that's really useful. And I have just go back one step before I move on to my next question. When I was sort of out of it for a second, did you touch on the areas of spend that Reducer does cover?
Yeah, I think so. I might have done. I'll do it again.
Yeah, just do a quick recap.
Because I always miss one out as well. So
Okay.
I may have missed one. So electricity, gas, water, waste and recycling, telecoms and broadband, mobile phones, oh God, fuel cards. Fuel cards is another. That's 7. That's almost there. Oh, we do hosting as well. Hosting is a new one we've added recently.
Right. Okay. So hosting's on there as well.
Yeah.
So it's a good range then. So within that, I suppose, with all those areas of spend, what do you see the first practical step being? And I suppose this might come from some case studies of accountants and bookkeepers that are actually working with you already. What do you see that first practical step being of saying, okay, look, I've looked at the system. This sounds great. Obviously, my clients want to save some money. I can load all my clients on and see them in one go. But what's that interaction look like as an accountant, for example? What do I do? How do I go and start talking to my clients about this and presenting them the information that you've got?
Yeah, so typically you will run a trial of sort of 10 to 20 people, and you'll call them up or you'll email them just to make sure they're happy with the information being shared. That's kind of key to us, that we get that client consent up front for that trial, because we want you to trust us. We want to use the data in a safe, reliable way. So we'll help. We've got emails. We've got help for accountants in having that conversation with their clients and how to reach out to their clients. But in general, because I guess the thing I haven't mentioned yet is that Reducer's free to use, so it doesn't cost anyone anything. So the worst case scenario is we don't save the client some money, and everyone goes home. It takes 30 seconds per client or so to load them up, and then 30 seconds to see that we can't save them any money. So worst case scenario, we save them nothing. There's only really upside. So in general, we don't get any negative feedback from clients as long as they've been pre-warned about it. It's always just, that always helps.
Okay, that's really useful. And one question that's coming from Margaret actually saying, if a client is using a fuel card, can you work with that already? So I suppose if that's a pre-existing fuel card in place.
Yeah, exactly. Fuel cards, we will compare against their current provider, or if they're not using a fuel card provider, then we'll also compare it if the spend's high enough and it makes sense. Fuel cards, again, it's one of those where it comes down to that conversation with one of our savings analysts, because the benefit of fuel cards is more in managing spend than in savings you can make. But yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And Esther was asking about the cost, which you've just covered as well. So hopefully, Esther, that covered that question there. One of the questions from Paul was around payment processing. So do you do cost comparisons on payment processing?
Yes, so we do both online and in-person payment processing comparison. It's a really interesting one, because there's sort of 40 different attributes to each, but I don't know how many people here open up a world pay bill or a global payment bill. Probably I'm the only one who gets it. And this is the thing, no one goes into business because they're interested in cost management apart from me. Anyway, so you get a world pay bill and it's got 40 things, and you try and compare it against pricing you get from somewhere else. Now, mapping that is very, very difficult if you don't understand the industry, how it works, all of that sort of stuff. So we have a very strong, we find a lot of savings on payment processing. It's one of our best areas, and that's because it's really complicated. People rarely switch suppliers, and it's quite a competitive market as well.
Okay, brilliant. One of the points that I just wanted to pick up on was, I suppose, how clients then start introducing this as part of one of their services. So a great question that I always get asked by some of the accounting partners, and so just to clarify for readers, for listeners as well, when I say accounting partners, I'm not just talking about accountants, I'm covering bookkeepers and everyone. So I don't want anybody to feel left out. I always try to cover that. So just keeps it simpler for me. So with accounting partners, how do you see people offering it out? Do they say, actually, like, this is something I'm going to charge for? Or do they say, no, actually, I'm going to offer it free to my clients, like I get it for free, because it's going to add value to them and build up the relationship? Or is it a mixture of both? What do you see happening?
Usually it's bundled, where people have bundled services, they will bundle it into one of their services, but they'll usually bundle it into every service because it's free. It's just a nice sort of additional tick box that of value that they're giving to their clients. We don't see people charging for it, and that's for one key reason, and that is that the returns and what we find is very variable. So we actually recommend people not to charge for it, because if we get 10 clients, on average, we'll save one of them like several, like big sort of £10,000 or so. We'll save £2,000. We'll save like 4 or 5, a couple of hundred, and then 3 or 4, nothing. And to get those people to pay for it just seems a bit unfair when the value you're adding. What we actually do is we have an accountant rebate program. So we get paid if, like a price comparison service. So if a client makes a switch and takes a saving from us, then we get paid by their new supplier. What we do with accountants is we share some of that with the accountant to make sure that it's revenue generating for them, or not cost incur for them without any benefit. So, we see it as a win-win-win. The client's saving money, and the accountant gets a bit of commission, but also can really point to the exact amount of value that they've added to that client in that last period, which makes things like fee discussions like a slightly different dynamic when you go to them and be like, oh, we've saved you £5,000. By the way, our fee's going up 10%. It makes that conversation a lot easier. And then obviously we win as well, because we get paid by the supplier. Yeah. And I get happy because people stop getting ripped off.
Yeah, which is the main thing. So no, that's really useful, because it's always a big question, especially when I suppose something new is being rolled out into a firm. No matter how big or small the firm is, it's that case of, how do we actually sort of plug this into what we're doing? And I think that's just covered it really nicely, so that people can get a grasp of actually, how might I offer this to my client base and get them to see the value, but also I feel like I'm getting something out of it, as well as building the relationship from that. Within there. Okay, there's a couple of questions that are coming through actually I'm just going to pick up on now, because they sort of fit quite nicely into some of the bits that we've talked about, or some of the services as well. So Margaret's asked as well about foreign currency transfers. Is that something that you've got in the pipeline? Or
we looked at it. We looked at it. It's quite complicated, is the answer. So I think the difficulty, I won't go into too much detail, but the difficulty there is finding the exact rate that it should have been transferred at and working out the margin difference. So I can tell you that if you're transferring with like your bank, for example, you should be moving to another supplier. But I like to get it very exact in the amount of savings you can make. And with foreign exchange, we haven't got that yet. It's on the roadmap, but it's not in the next sort of 12-18 months or so.
Okay, no, that's really useful. And I suppose this fits in terms of the product offering that you've got, with the obviously with the landscape changing a lot for businesses. So we've seen it already, where lots of businesses en masse are just removing their commercial office spaces completely, because everybody's working from home and things like that. So how do you see I suppose the cost savings working with that? Because if a business hasn't got a premises, all of a sudden I suppose their heat and light and everything goes with it, and things like that, so their cost base might start to change slightly. And is that something you've thought about at Reducer?
Yeah, I think the I guess the interesting thing there is like what there's a big question over what is the future of work, but I think most of our best clients aren't. I mean, we get really good savings for shared office spaces. So one of our very first clients, for example, was Runway East, and we saved them £50,000 per year, which was brilliant. But in general, the best people for us are sort of butchers, bakers, pubs, clubs, bars, like I wouldn't say proper bricks and mortar businesses on the high street. So I think we're more concerned about changes to the high street than to the way people, office working. I think with office working, there's still going to be someone paying that energy bill. If you're co-working, if you're going into a place, it just might not be the company. So there's still opportunity for us there. But I think in terms of the size of the market, someone did a report recently saying that UK SMEs are overpaying by about £7 billion on energy alone. So, we're really just scratching the surface of where we can get to with this.
Yeah. Okay. And that's really interesting, I suppose, the types of businesses that actually are going to have the main benefit from working with.
Yeah, it's worth saying as well that there are some businesses it doesn't work for. Just don't want to put anyone off, but
yeah.
So
have you got any examples?
Yeah. So if you're an accounting firm with freelancers, contractors, those sorts of businesses, they generally will just have mobile phones spent, and not a huge amount. So the savings there are usually pretty low compared to some of these other areas. The other thing on that's really important for people to know before they sign up is that data quality is really important for us. So to get accurate quoting, we need to have attachments on board in your accounting system. So we're big fans of anyone who's using either the Zero invoice upload or Receipt Bank Fetch, Auto Entry. Again, there are other software providers available. But if you've got to the point where you've got good data in the accounting system, you've got processes for bookkeeping, or your client is bookkeeping well, then we can really start adding value. If you're not quite at the stage where you've got Receipt Bank Auto Entry, got that working, then you're probably sort of 6 months away from being able to see the value that we can give you. Interestingly, a few accounting firms have been using us as a means to get people improving their data quality, because they say, look, here's what we've done for people who've got good data quality. You're not uploading things. Look, our average saving across this group of clients is £1,500. We couldn't find you anything, but we should be able to find you something because you've got to spend in the right areas, improve your data.
Okay, and that's a real key, I think, and that links nicely into what Esther was asking. One of the questions that came through saying, do we need actual invoice PDFs uploaded into the accounting system? So I take it the answer is yes. If you want to do it properly, the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, because I think to get it accurate. So we're not one of these people who will be like, oh, you spend some money on EDF, on average you can save £700. No, with us it's you spend 1,271 kilowatt hours at 13.86p. You have a standing charge of this, you get like this tiny discount, and then compare it like that. So we do a comparison as exact as possible to make it as accurate as possible. So at the moment, we need those attachments.
Okay, and that's really good. And I suppose that I was doing a webinar with someone a while ago, and we were talking about how to sort of strong arm your clients in terms of giving you data so you can actually do it. And that's a great example of an excuse to say, look, if you give me your data, I can do this. For example, MTD is a great one of saying, oh, the government's telling us you've got to do it. This is another one of saying, well, you've not got to do it, but if you do, you could potentially save a lot of money just by giving me paperwork.
Yeah, and it's quite tangible, I think, compared to, so again, we have people who do that with cash flow forecasting apps, and I'm a big fan of cash flow forecasting apps, don't get me wrong. But I think when you're trying to convince clients of things, sometimes it's easier to see the immediate value of a cost saving versus a 3-year, 3-month, or whatever cash flow forecast.
Yeah. Okay, and that's really good. A question that came in from Tim, he was asking around basically on the smaller clients who do not have that sort of office or shop or that type of thing. Is it actually worth reducing it? Is it actually worth using Reducer on those types of clients? And you touched on that slightly with the sort of more sole traders, but if people don't have a premises, is there a use case for it still?
There is, but the savings is going to be a lot smaller, and what we can do is going to be a lot smaller. So I'm not going to say no, because there's no downside to doing it. It takes sort of 30 seconds per client. So if we can't find the many savings, then we can't find the many savings. I just want to manage expectations that currently, then there's not that much we can do for them above mobiles. Yeah. Building contractors, waste removal we can do as well. Yeah.
Okay, that's really useful. A great one that's coming from Karina, asking, how long does the process actually take? I suppose from taking the information to coming back and saying this is what we can or can't save you.
Good question. So it depends. Typically, we'll work with an accountant. We'll arrange a time to upload their clients, and then we'll arrange a call to go through the reports that we created. Usually, we'll do that about a week and a half later. We can do things quicker, but some larger clients will need bespoke tenders. So say if you've got a client which is spending like £10,000 or more on electricity or gas, or has multiple sites, then we'll have to go out to the suppliers and get bespoke pricing for them. Or we don't have to, but we choose to. And I think compared to compare the market or something like that, because of the way we structure it, there's less time sensitivity there, and we'd rather get the best prices than get back to you quicker on it.
Okay, and that's really useful. One of the questions that's come through is asking about, I suppose, the reach of your service as well. So, for example, do you work with suppliers in the Republic of Ireland, or is it just UK specific? Or
it's just UK, I'm afraid. So we've looked at the Republic of Ireland. The electricity market, the energy market's very different in different places. So we can't do Northern Ireland either at the moment. Waste suppliers are typically regional, so they'll cover, say, the southwest or the southeast or northeast. So they're very regional. So unfortunately not.
Okay, good to know. And have you got any plans reaching out outside the UK in the future, or is that not for now?
No, not for now. I think there's so much more we can do here. I think, I said earlier, we cover 8 areas. There's so much more value you can derive from this data. Not only adding different areas, but there's all sorts of interesting sort of insights you can give people that we want to build on. So no, not at the moment. We're very UK focused at the moment.
Okay, that's good. One of the questions that's come through, there's loads of great questions, by the way, which means that I've got a few more to come on to, but these are really good questions. So keep them coming through, because it's great to get answers to these. A question again from Margaret, I think is our #1 fan at the moment. Keep them coming. Is most telecoms and mobile phone companies on business contracts have a couple of year contract, for example, that might be hidden away somewhere. Is that taken into account in terms of the work you do? So do you sort of try and scout out what those contract terms are?
So I'd start, it's different in each area, but something like electricity or gas, they have to have the contract end dates on the bill. So we can pull that from there. With mobiles, it's a bit harder, but we can usually pull the information on contract end dates. Broadband and telecoms similarly. I think the interesting one, say something like water, no one is in contract because it only was deregulated sort of 9 months ago. So that's a really easy one. So it's dependent on the area. In payment processing, as an example, if you have one payment coming out of your account to one provider, you're usually not in contract, and you'll be in contract for the handsets rather than the acquirer. Whereas if you have a separate payment coming out of the bank for handsets and for your fees, then you usually are in contract. So there's hundreds of small things like that we just know that help us get to the right answer.
Okay, so in answer to that, yes, you do take into account.
Yes,
it's just
that is the shorter answer.
Yes, but it's no, that's fine. No, it's good. Just to recap, I suppose it's knowing the tricks of the trade, isn't it? And that's what you're there to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's really good. And one of the things that I just wanted to touch on is around the platforms as well that you integrate with. So we're a zero user magazine, but we're fully aware that other people use other accounting systems, and there's going to be clients out there with multiple accounting systems in place or with their clients. So which are the major platforms that you do actually integrate with to carry out the service?
Just Xero and QuickBooks at the moment. We created a button for Sage to see if anyone would click on it to connect their clients via Sage, and no one has clicked on it yet. So when people start clicking on it, then we'll know that we need to build that functionality.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and thanks for the comment from Paul saying, please stay away from Sage, which is probably why nobody's clicked on your button. So I'm not going to get into a software battering session, but it's very interesting.
Sorry, on that point, in terms of what we work with one of the larger accounting firms, to work with a couple of the sort of top 30 or so. With one of those larger firms, we've got a direct link into their system as opposed to going by via Xero. So we have an API endpoint. I'm probably saying the right. We have this thing that they.
It sounds about right. Anyway, I'm going to agree with you. So
they can right click and send a bill to us, and it comes to us, and then we work with them. So that's something that is possible for really big firms as well.
Okay, that's really good, really interesting to know. I think it just helps because and especially even if people know that you've got QBO and Xero linked in, because lots of practices have clients coming in from different accounting platforms at the moment. So it's just useful for those to know who you're working with on that as well. So in terms of coming up over the next sort of few months, is there anything that you're allowed to touch on, or you can touch on, or is there anything in the pipeline with Reducer that you think actually is coming out and is really worth sort of shouting about or can be excited about?
Yeah, I think
might not be allowed to say too much, but
no, I can't say too much. We've got a new website coming out. I think the challenge at the moment, there's a massive challenge in the market with suppliers, and we're spending a lot of time trying to get our suppliers working with us. So you mentioned the pubs being shut earlier. At the moment, only 1 in 30 of the UK's electricity suppliers are offering new contracts to pubs. So, and it's getting really tough to find suppliers for some of these businesses. So we're spending a lot of time on expanding our supplier base and getting suppliers to get enough deals and get savings for our customers. So I think expanding the supplier base, we're building supplier reviews onto the system and trying to create a more qualitative, I always get this wrong, qualitative experience for the clients. So, yeah.
Okay, no, that's really good. I always like to ask just to see if there's anything coming out and what your challenges are, I suppose, as well. In obviously,
we did single sign-on with Xero a couple of days ago, which is quite nice.
Yeah,
nice little tool.
Yeah, so it's less passwords to think about. That's the main thing. So in terms of going forward, then I suppose after this, just to lay it out again, we touched on it slightly earlier, but I suppose the practical steps for people. So if we've got any listeners on today and they say, actually, yeah, this actually sounds pretty good. Those practical steps going forward. So I think you mentioned that there's a trial version it's worth people getting signed up for if they want to have a play with it.
I think the best thing to do, to be honest, is to go to the website and book a call with either myself or one of our partnership managers who can answer any questions individually. Like, we'll talk about your firm, what's right for you, and what the right approach is, and make sure you're happy with it, and then run you through that, what the trial would be. So I think you can. I know you can. So if you go to our website, reducer.co.uk, you can click a button, book a call with us, book something into one of our calendars, and then we'll take the conversation from there.
Okay, no, that's really good. And then I suppose after that, that's where they can sort of liaise with you and hopefully take some of the points away from what we've spoken about today to have a think about within their firm, actually the practical implementation of this and how they offer it as part of their service as well. And are there some case studies out there that you've got that people can sort of look at? Or
we've got a couple of smaller ones on the website. We've got some larger ones that we can share with people if they get in contact with us. Again, we'll try and keep it to this kind of size of firm and their interests. But yeah, we've got quite a few. We've also got quite a few with businesses and the effect it's had on their relationship with their accountant as well.
Yeah. Okay, that's really good. I think case studies are really a really nice way to practically see how how others are working with the system. So there's just a question that's come in that I'm just going to touch on before we start to wrap up. So if you've got any questions that you don't want to get in before we finish, make sure you get them in now so they don't get missed, or we'll try and answer anything after the webinar if you get in touch after. But a good question that's coming from Karina, actually saying, how regularly do you actually review clients' information? So if I processed it now, for example, do I do it each month, every 6 months, every year? Yeah, how regularly do you go through the process?
Again, we'll do it on a, what we like to do is recommend it to you, because I think there was an earlier question about contract expiry dates. And we will know when that client, so when clients come on, we put them in our contract expiry management system. I think it needs a snappy name. Oh no, it's got one, Reducer Relax, that's it. Sorry, I knew we've had that conversation. We put them in Reducer Relax, which basically warns us when they're about to go out of contract, and we get in contact with the accountant, say we need to run this again. We don't, it's not something you need to do every month, because usually if you can deal with those issues, you don't need to do it that often. So every quarter, every 6 months, every 12 months is fine. People choose to do all of those.
Okay, that's really good. And yeah, thanks for the question on that. So just finally, before we start to close, so I understand that obviously reducers are growing yourselves, doing quite well, and establishing quite well. So are you going forward in terms of over the next sort of 12 to 24 months? Obviously plans have changed, but within Reducer as a business, are you still sort of seeing a good trajectory? And you said you're very, very busy, and I think you've got 11 staff now, is it? Is it 11?
Yeah, so we've gone up to 11 of us now, and we're hiring for 2 more at the moment. So yeah, things are definitely moving in the right direction. We'll hope to sort of double the team over the next 12 months as well, to really lend some more support to our partners. And really, we're just in it to help businesses save money. So I think we're on a figure of over £1 million now. We want to get that to tens, hundreds of millions in the next couple of years. And we can see, I think what most people say about the business is it just makes sense. It's like, well, why wouldn't you? It's a no-brainer. And we see a massive opportunity to help businesses, and we want to take advantage of that.
That's good. And it's nice to see that growth as well. And I think especially over the next sort of 12 months, this is a very important area for everyone, more than it ever has been. So good luck to you going forward.
They always say that there's I mean, they say it about everything, like habits. They say there's the best time to start a good habit is like 10 years ago, but the second best time is today. And I think it's exactly the same with cost management. Like, it would be great if we all did it 3 years ago and we'd save thousands of pounds by now, but get started today, because you'll really see the benefit in years to come. Yeah,
absolutely. No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for the time today, Joe. And just to confirm with everybody, we'll send a follow-up afterwards with a recording of the video today, but also as well just with a few useful links. So just guiding you to the right places, so you can book in those calls if you're interested to hear more. As well. So we'll get that out to you as well, just to make sure that you can have a good follow-up. And thanks for the nice comments as well coming in. So good session. So yeah, thanks for that, and thanks again, Joe.
Yeah, no, thanks David. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks everyone for sticking around and listening to me for so long.
Yes,
especially when David left. To be honest, I had a bit of a heart attack. I was like, how long can I keep talking?
Yeah, but you did a great job of padding it out, and yeah, thank you for everyone sticking with that. I do apologize. I'm not quite sure what's gone on, but we've managed to stay down since. So yeah, I've stopped sweating a little bit now. It's that panic for everybody. You can plan as best as you can, but if your internet goes, it's dire. But there we go, we got through. So yeah, thank you for everybody, and have a great rest of your day. And speak to you next time.